Nasdaq down more than 3% last week. Actually, I think I saw minus 3.8% at the worst. But you heard it here. Last week I told you that I thought it would be a very volatile week for Nasdaq especially, where we could see market or Nasdaq fall more than 3% in a single day. Nasdaq ended the week at minus 2%, so it picked up a little bit. Dow Jones managed to end the week in plus, up 0.75%, ending the week at 40,589 points. The question is, will this week be as volatile as last week? Well, that's one of the many questions I will try to answer in this week's podcast, Trading Tips with Jim. By the end of the podcast, I will tell you a few stock tips and we'll get back to the $1,000 challenge with a small update. Last week, as I said, was very volatile, moving a lot up and down, and everything indicates that we will have somewhat the same this week. Maybe not as much as last week, but everything indicates that we are in a period of high volatility. The good thing is that Nasdaq, and we are looking at the buy and sell signals, is coming down to a level where it soon will offer buying opportunities, and that might just be this week. I believe some of the heavy tech stocks which have fallen more, the magical 7 has fallen more than 12% over the last 1.5 months, could offer some rebounds opportunities. Last week I told you I very seldom give advices to short, but I thought Google could be a candidate to short. And Google did exactly what I thought they would do, coming with the quarter results that didn't give enough to the investors, and Google was down more than 5% in a single day. This week there will be a lot of other quarter results coming out, and I think we will see some of the same. I think Meta, for instance, which will be one of these candidates this week, may not hold a big surprise for the investors, which can lead to a huge fall in Meta. We'll get back to that as well in just a few minutes. But I was saying that Nasdaq is starting to get down at good signal level, currently sitting at 21% buy signals, meaning 21% of all companies at Nasdaq is currently giving a buy signals. It was much higher than that previous. Now we're getting down. Personally, I would like to see it down to 10-14. That's where I really think the upside is. But if you look at the chart, Nasdaq is hovering just above the support, which we wanted, and that can give a buying opportunity. While speaking about Nasdaq, there is issued a death star in the medium-term chart, meaning that from technical analysis there is expected more falls, especially for Nasdaq, probably also the broader market. And I mentioned maybe 2 podcasts ago that I am developing new systems trying to detect when market is ready for correction, and that has given 2 major sell signals over the last 10 days. And looking at the long-term chart, it is clearly overbought. Indeed, very interesting time ahead. Will we move back, get into the track and head for 20,000 at Nasdaq? Or will we be hammered by the quarter results? And this week will be more than 170 companies releasing their quarter results. And I told you, gave you that warning last quarter that this quarter will be a much tougher one. The expectations are high for the companies, and margins are under pressure. I saw a lot of this last week in the last week's quarter results, exactly what I thought would happen. We see a shift in consumer behavior where consumers are going from the high-end products to the more lower-end products. And I told you that could be a buying opportunity if you are able to figure out where the consumer will go. And this week, speaking about the quarter results, so McDonald's, for instance, will be today on the Monday, and that will really give an insight into consumer behavior. We know from before that they have increased prices, trying to keep their profit margins, but customers are starting to skip even the McDonald's meal. Very interesting, and I advise you to keep an eye, especially what is written after the quarter results, what they are writing about quarter results, because this is about consumer behavior, and that will have a lot of say for the future of the stock price for companies like McDonald's, because if customers are changing their behavior, the profit margins will be less moving forward. You can only offset a certain amount on the end consumer before it simply gets too costly. We will at some point get back into consumer business. I plan to pick up consumer stocks, but not yet. I think there is more red waiting for certain selected consumer stocks. AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, will come tomorrow. Another interesting company. The tech sector is absolutely something to follow. I said last week, and that was even commented on the YouTube version, that AI should struggle, and I gave good arguments. Will not repeat them now. You just have to go back to last week's podcast to see. Electronic Arts EA, very interesting company as well, will also have quarter results tomorrow, and it follows up with several energy companies like Marathon Petroleum, MPC, Merck will be, then also Pfizer in medicine, Starbucks, which took a loss on last quarter results. Will they continue to take a loss, or will they show signs of again getting control on their growth? There is plenty of stocks that can give a huge upside, also a huge downside in the week ahead of us for sure, because going over to Wednesday, so there will be Meta, as I said. Very interesting to see how Meta will manage. Now the AI race is on. Meta released their free version fighting OpenAI. Boeing, which is a company, and this is the first real stock tips of the day. Consider Boeing. Boeing been hammered. They haven't paid dividend for 50 years. They were paying dividend every single year, but for the last 2 years they have not paid dividend because they've been struggling. There has been a lot of bad news about Boeing in media lately, but I think it's a very good opportunity to pick up Boeing in the long term. You have to remember, the warmongers, the war industry is hammering day and night. Boeing is also taking a piece of that cake. And last week there was companies in the war industry showing strong results. Lockheed Martin, all these showing very strong results. I guess it'll just continue. Heinz Kraft, KHC, will also have quarter results. Again, we are at consumer behavior. I speak a lot about consumer behavior lately, but it's so interesting to see, because when consumers change their behavior, that is when we start to see huge changes in unemployment, etc. And by the end of the week, we will have unemployment numbers coming on Thursday. Will be the weekly numbers. On Friday, I think that we will have the first July numbers coming in. Expectations is that the unemployment rate will stay at 4.1 after going up from 3.6 to 4.1. I think it might be 4.2. We will see. But my guess and prediction moving forward is that we will see a stark increase in unemployment. Last week, several good economic numbers came in. Inflation numbers came in good, or somewhat even better than expected. But there are some cracks in the economy. We will just have to wait to see what is correct or not, because now everyone is focusing, will Fed cut the interest rates or not? Cut in interest rates is expected to be very good for the stock market, but you have to remember the stock market has already priced in a lot of the expectations for these things in the current price. But in general, if interest rates go down, there is less money to be made having your money in the bank in interest. Some money usually shift over to the stock market. That is what everyone hopes for, that we will see very swift interest rates cut fueling the stock market. Let us finish a little bit more about quarter results, because on Thursday there will be Apple, Amazon, two big candidates. Coinbase will come, ConocoPhillips will come, Crocs and DraftKings will come, Mara will come, and Moderna. So again, as I told you, more than 170 companies will come with quarter results. Some of these, like Meta, like Apple, can absolutely make for an insane red or green. They expect these companies, these big ones, to affect the market. So we have Microsoft on Tuesday, Meta on Wednesday, Apple on Thursday. Again, I expect volatility is typically a place where it's nice to be a day trader. Just remember that you cannot expect anything from the following day. So I would personally not sit overnight. Quick trades in and out. Try to get the direction correct and you will make quite good money. On Friday will be Chevron and ExxonMobil in the energy sector, giving more insights to that. Back to Nasdaq. Nasdaq has been falling. I said that's a dead start from the long-term and the short-term moving average, indicating further downturn, bouncing up from support right now, but again facing resistance just around 18,000 points. It will be very interesting. My guess is that we will bounce up and down between 16,800 and 18,200. Between these two levels, I expect us to move during the week. I expect a very volatile week. We have the first clear signs of a break of the trend. Nasdaq been in a super strong, tight, nice rising trend for quite a long time. Now we have the first real statistic signs that the trend is broken and that we can expect a trend change. That could mean a slower rising pace, but also going from rising to horizontal, or even worst case, more down. We are heading into the fall. I also promised to give a short update about India, since there are quite many followers from India. And when we look at the Nifty 50, the Indian index looks better than Nasdaq. Looks more safe to me. Both Nasdaq and Nifty is bouncing up from low RSI. They hit low RSI last week on the big falls, and that gives room for an upside. So by the end of the week, I will not be surprised if we have a total green week for Nasdaq. I'm just saying that it will be a lot up and down, and everything indicates that Nifty also will, or the Indian market will be somewhat good. Oil has fallen a little bit, back $3 last week to $77 currently. Gold, which was pushing all the way almost up to 2,500, 2,470 or something, has fallen back, fell by $50 last week to $2,385. And you can expect gold to move a bit up and down during the week as more economic numbers come in and everyone is trying to struggle to find the direction. I would like to point out the following, that Hamas and Israel is struggling. And that can break out to a new major conflict. So we have Palestine and Hamas, but now also with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is much stronger than Hamas, 10 times stronger, much more routine soldiers. Personally, I was in Lebanon in '93 and saw Hezbollah training camps, vehicles. Just back then they were pretty strong, and over the years they grow even stronger. If that breaks out, and it's a fair chance that things will escalate, just expect gold and oil to push hard. I am optimistic about the energy sector. I told you this before. One of the tips I gave 2 weeks ago was Frontline, and if you follow that tips back then, I told you 2 weeks, not last week's podcast, but the podcast before, Frontline were at 23.50. I said I think it's a very good buy. It hit almost 26, almost up 8% in just a few days before falling back, currently sitting more or less at the same level like 2 weeks. Is it more upside in frontline? I think so. I think that oil will be under pressure, but it's not as obvious as a few other candidates that I will tell you in just a few minutes. 10-year Treasury will remain steady at 4.2, also awaiting more information from Fed to try pin it. It was up at 4.6. If it goes up, markets go down. Usually that's been the trend for the last 2 years, that correlation been extremely strong. If it goes down, you can expect the market to push up, so you can keep an eye on the 10-year Treasury yield as well. Getting back to the signals before we move to a few stock tips and the $1,000 challenge. Across all the signals that we analyzed, 33% holds a buy signal. That is somewhat okay. It's not high, it's not low. Going to Nasdaq, I just told you it was 21% buy signals, but going to New York Stock Exchange, 48%. That is way too high, and some of the reason why I think that you can see quite many of the heavier companies, New York Stock Exchange listed companies, will take a fall in the week ahead of us. London 29, getting to some somewhat interesting level. Frankfurt, which was very high, and I told you 2 weeks ago that you can expect things to happen in Frankfurt, is down at 37%. Tokyo 21%. I told you Asia would do it first, and then we would follow, getting down to somewhat moderate level now. Shenzhen 11% buy signals, and National Stock Exchange of India at 27. All of these signals except New York Stock Exchange is not very overbought, but when they are heading downwards, we can continue the falls. None of these are typical buying positions. So there is nothing in these numbers saying that we have a very, very strong buying opportunity. If I would make a bet, I would say it's a higher chance to make some money in the Chinese market than there is in many of the other markets as we speak moving forward. That's 17 minutes into the podcast. Again, I will not make it a very long podcast, so I think we'll just go to a few trading tips and the $1,000 challenge. But before doing so, I get a lot of very nice comments on YouTube. Very happy about that. Get a few in my mailbox as well, on Discord, etc. Really appreciate this. And Jesse, if you are, as you say, listening to the podcast on your way to your rancho in Mexico, have a beautiful day. Same to you, Rolf. Thank you for your comments. And about the $1,000 challenge, I am in NEO. Currently sitting in NEO. Bought NEO for $4.27. Was up at almost 5. Currently sitting at 4.43. Only leaving 3.75% profit in the NEO trade. The portfolio, the $1,000 challenge, currently sit at $3,491. It was up almost at $4,000. Now fallen a little bit back, staying at $3,491. I am still in NEO, and one question was about stop loss. How do I set the stop loss? I expect huge swings for NEO, and every time I think NEO is setting the direction to push upwards, it gets hammered. And last week it was Tesla numbers that disappointed a little bit, pushing also NEO back. Before that, a few weeks before that, it was other EV news pushing it up. I think there is a huge upside in NEO. I stay in NEO. My stop loss is, I will take the loss at 380, I believe. If it falls under 380, I had a trailing stop loss moving up. I have decided to remove it because there is a shift. And I saw this question, I believe it was on Discord. Now, why is such suddenly small cap companies going? But I told you this in I don't know how many podcasts lately I've been telling you that you would see a shift of money flowing from the bigger companies, especially the AI companies, into smaller, because all of these big ones, they was overpriced, unreasonably overpriced. Money, they don't usually go straight to the bank. If you sell, you usually invest into something else. And many of these small companies, as I told you, over the last almost 2 years, it's been the market mainly been driven by 7, 8, 9 big companies, the Magnificent Sevens companies. These have mainly driven the market up, while the rest of the stocks, either move horizontally or fell. So the upturn we've seen in the market is not a broad one, it's been very narrow. Many of the other companies, small medium companies, are reasonably priced, showing good quarter results. And I expect to see more of these things. And I think ICE might go into, as I said, I believe very strongly in EV. I think it's a very good position to be in EV right now. Not sure exactly when you will have the strong return on the money. Will it start now? Will it start next year? Hopeless to say. But I think, again, money will flow into EV sector, lifting these companies, maybe not all the way back to their previous highs in any time soon, but easily double the money in electrical vehicles. NIO is in the $1,000 challenge. It stays. I will post when and if it will be sold. And before I buy anything new stock into the $1,000 challenge, I will tell you in the podcast before I buy. You just have to tune in. Next Monday I will be back again, and then I will tell you if stock is out and which I will buy. I promised you a few stock tips before ending the podcast. So for national stock of India, I told you that Bharti Hexacon, Bharti Hexa is the ticker, very long ticker there, was one stock which I thought looked very good back then. It was at $1,090, currently sitting at rupee, currently sitting at 1,169 rupee. Nice upturn there so far for Bharti given the market, and I checked it and it still looks good. So that's one stock I would be into. I also thought Crompton, Grave Consume Electrics, Crompton would do good. Now we're talking National Stock Exchange of India. Was 431 rupee then, up at 442, but doesn't look as good as I would say as Bharti does. So Bharti is still the favor. Just having a quick look at the Indian stock market. For the major markets, back to US, I said Take Two looks to me to have a upside, but Take Two did not move very much at all. I said when I said it was $153. It moved up and down around 153, but ending the week at 150. Still believe that Take Two offers an opportunity, so I will keep that one. Frontline I just mentioned. I gave you Frontline. I thought I gave you the following argument. I would go into Frontline and Take Two. Now we are talking 2 weeks ago, because I expected red markets and Nasdaq been falling 2 weeks in a row. I expected tough markets, and I saw these stocks to have somewhat support below, meaning low risk on the downside and a potential upside. Frontline did that. It went up 8-9% before falling back, currently sitting at 23.59. Is it a good buy now? I'm not sure, because it's a little bit about the oil price, but still very interesting. But that short sweet trade was taken out during the first week. Still, I have two candidates that I think might do good this week. One is Applied Material, AMAT, Applied Materials, currently sitting at $206.47. I think this one might move during the week. I will follow up next week and tell you how it did. Then there is Next Tracker NXT, a little bit smaller company, sitting at $47.28. Looks to me like it could be a stock to move. 24 minutes into the podcast, no reason to prolong it. Sum it very quickly up. I expect a very volatile week at Nasdaq. A lot up and down intraday. During the day, I think it's a fair chance that we end green, given the fact that Nasdaq found a pivot bottom, bouncing up from some support level, but it will find a lot of resistance just above 18,000 points. Looks to me like we will be moving up and down sideways, with a fair chance that we will end the week higher than in the beginning of the week, but not by much. Anyway, there will be so many quarter results coming every single day of the week. that we will see instantly how things, if quarter results are coming in just better than expected, can lay a very nice groundwork for getting back on a very nice rising trend. I'll trust my gut feeling. I don't think that will happen. So my bet is very highly volatile week for Nasdaq, moving sideways, but good chance that it can end higher than in the beginning of the week. NEO stays in the $1,000 challenge, and you can take a small look at AMOT and NXT. I have to say that I'm not into any of these stocks, just I just found them and I thought they look interesting. I hope you will be back next week. I hope you will like the video or the podcast versions. If you give a comment, I will usually reply. You can also ask a question, and then I will try to answer them in the podcast. Until next week, just have a fabulous week. Bye.
Welcome to StockInvest.us Stock Analysis. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.us. By using the information, you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.